6 men who have formerly attended University of Michigan has called out campus physician Robert Anderson for sexual assault and misconduct. There has now been an investigation by the campus police to determine if any of this were true. Just one problem: Robert Anderson's dead, and has been, for 12 years. And all 6 accusations that we know of were reported as early as a whole decade after his death. I briefly read a couple articles related to the story, and this was fairly sad. I'm not saying that I don't believe the victims. They may as well happen, and I hope all is well for them now and since. But these late accusations of sexual misconduct is getting out of hand, and the fact that they're investigating secrets from Anderson that have been lost for a dozen years is a complete waste of time. We are going to read one of these articles. This one's from mynorthwest.com, where the 6th man, 2008 Olympic wrestler Andy Ravat, became the latest person to accuse Anderson of sexual misconduct. Ann Arbor, Michigan. An Olympic wrestler on Thursday accused a University of Michigan doctor of touching him inappropriately during medical exams at the school and said the physician's reputation for such conduct was well known among his teammates. Andy Ravat, who competed for the U.S. in the 2008 Summer Olympics, told the Associated Press that the encounters with the late Dr. Robert E. Anderson happened during his freshman year in 1998. "I'd like to let people know that it's okay to come out," Ravat said in an interview from his attorney's office in Denver. "It's okay to let your voice be heard." No one can hear you when you don't say something. This allegedly happened in 1998. 22 years ago. I wasn't even born 22 years ago. I don't want to trash him because he's allegedly a victim, and it's okay to come out and let your voice be heard. However, it's not quite as impactful as it would have been 22 years ago, or any other time he was alive. In this situation, I would either tell somebody right away, or then away, or I'd take it to the grave. He's the first athlete to make public accusations against Anderson following complaints this week from other former students that the doctor sexually abused them decades ago. The revelations echo high-profile sexual abuse allegations made against sports doctors at other universities. I was warned about him from teammates, saying, "If anything happens and you go see the doctor, he's going to inappropriately touch you. That's just what Dr. A does," Ravat recalled. You think after hearing that you would just go to a normal doctor's office and let them know. I think the biggest culprits here are the teammates because they knew exactly what was going on and didn't tell anybody other than a friend or teammate. They should have reported that trash bag and get the show on the road. They're equally as responsible. He declined to describe the exam, saying he was uncomfortable to talk about it. I somewhat understand. It's a very uncomfortable situation then, and remains uncomfortable when you revisit it. I think what's more uncomfortable than talking about it, however, is suppressing and imprinting it in your thoughts, especially when it comes to sexual misconduct. You came out as being molested. Now tell us how. You won't be judged by those important to you. As a matter of fact, you'll receive nothing but sympathy thereon, me included. To me, the mental part of having to go in there knowing that this doctor was going to touch you inappropriately is what sticks out most in my mind, he said. Ravat said he did not tell then Michigan wrestling coach Dale Bear or anyone in athletic administration about Anderson's conduct. I know. In my mind, he normalized what he was doing and made you think that this was some normal part of the procedure. So why would you tell somebody? The better question is, when did you realize that whatever Anderson was doing wasn't the normal part of the procedure? You had every warning thrown your way before seeing Anderson, and stuff like getting your scrotum yanked, your butt fiddled, or doing the exam while completely naked. I'm talking about the physician, by the way. How's this not getting through to you? I bet if Anderson were a female, you'd be talking about how the school physician got you laid. But because it's a creepy bisexual man doing the work, it seems slightly odd. Is this the normal part of the procedure? I call bullshit. He probably knew. I think the problem here is that Ravat didn't give us a basic extent of the abuse, and then he decided to throw in this giant curveball, saying, "This seemed normal at the time. I don't think it does anymore." Another former student, Gary Bailey, told the AP that Anderson dropped his pants and asked him to fondle his genitals in a medical exam during Bailey's senior year in 1968 or 1969. Why don't you look at that? Somebody giving detail in the extent that happened. I still think this could have been said 5 decades earlier. Now, keep in mind that when you live a long enough life, some years where events have occurred are a bigger blur than others, so that's where the 68 or 69 came from. Bailey said he filled out a complaint form to the University Health Service within a month or so, writing that the behavior was inappropriate. I can't disagree with him. If I were in that situation, I would either run or I'd beat the ever-loving shit out of him. Most likely option B, and I get on with my life. I can't speak for everyone because we're all different. Now I have to apologize. I did say that all 6 accusations happened a decade after his death. He said that he made the complaint within a month or so. I read it as he made a complaint about a month or so. That doesn't excuse the other 5 for waiting after his death. I never heard anything about it ever again, said Bailey, now 72. Officials have acknowledged that some university employees were aware of accusations against the doctor prior to the 2018 complaint that led to the police investigation. This is Penn State all over again. University President Mark Schlissel opened the meeting of the school's board of that word Thursday by reading a prepared statement about Anderson, who died in 2008. The patient-physician relationship involves a solemn commitment and trust, he said. The allegations are highly disturbing. On behalf of the university, I apologize to anyone who was harmed by Dr. Anderson. And that apology is all the victims are going to get, because, again, Robert Anderson's dead. They can't sue his relatives. They didn't rape the university students that I know of. They could potentially sue the school, not for the sexual misconduct, but rather knowing about it and not doing anything. I'll read another paragraph of that article in a moment, but one short paragraph I saw on Bleacher Report, a somewhat trusted sports online magazine. Michigan's announcement stated the school is making the request for further information after the Washtenaw County Prosecutor's Office determined Tuesday it wouldn't authorize criminal charges against Anderson based on the details gathering during the UM Police Department investigation. So pretty much they're investigating to see if any of this is true. And that's it. The further info would be plausible, but they can't arrest the dead man. He was the one that got away. The victims aren't going to get their justice. It's not their fault they were allegedly touched. Robert Anderson, which sounds like, was living scum. Now he's dead scum. But it's the victim's full responsibility to expose Anderson for the misconduct. But wait! Allegedly, they had an reason. Skipping ahead in the MyNorthwest.com article, once again, as men in their 30s up to their 60s, there is a real shame associated with this. Most didn't speak up because they were concerned he wouldn't clear them to play. If you're not cleared by the doctor, you lose your athletic scholarship. He had tremendous control. These at the time boys and young men were subjected to this stuff knowing that if they said anything, they were fearful he would retaliate. So, the vibe I'm getting out of this is that it's far more tragic to lose an athletic scholarship than it is getting raped. At that point, who even gives a fuck about your scholarship? You're getting molested. You're also an athlete. Athletes can run. Run for help. I'm sure your scholarship isn't going anywhere out of your hands, because a medical exam or a physical that hasn't been completed isn't an automatic failure, kind of like a driver's test. If you crash midway through, it'll be listed as incomplete, not failure. Also, being afraid if he'd retaliate? If he were to retaliate, that'd be his death sentence. The victims are either thinking too much into the what-ifs, or it took 50 years later for the second victim to come up with a good story. Don't get the idea that I'm defending Anderson, but it's really hard to have sympathy for the victims in this situation, at least the 5 of 6. There is a moral to the shitstorm of a story. If you find yourself in a situation that involves another person, that person makes you feel uncomfortable in the way he acts, speaks, or touches without consent, and you want a big slice of justice on your plate, get it while it's hot, because it may be gone before it gets cold. I'll end that here.